He continued, I went from being a very successful businessman to a top TV star. Our pretzels are being threatened by this man. What else do you need? It's like you think we were preparing for a zombie attack. Nobody knows what's going to happen. We'll be contested for weeks on end. The best way to describe how I'm feeling right now is somewhere between Christmas Eve and the night before a liver transplant. I'm looking up at the sky. A friend of mine said, You know you're the most famous man in the world. I said, No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Breaking news. Trump declares his marriage the best in the history of marriages. Maybe ever. Late-night hosts suggest otherwise. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Well, folks, it seems our favorite orange-tinted president just can't help but make things worse for himself in his desperate attempt to prove his marriage is as perfect as his hair. Spoiler alert, it's not. Trump managed to turn a simple roast into a full-blown comedy extravaganza. Talk about a solo performance. Experts say that when public figures freak out over criticism, it usually backfires big time. And boy, did it ever. Trump's Twitter tirade only made people more suspicious about what's really going on behind those golden doors. It's like he took a magnifying glass to his own marriage and invited the whole world to take a peek. Canada, they are busy sandbagging the border right now for everyone who says they're going to move there. No, you are not. We are not welcome in Canada. Being really smart is not the same as being really smart, sir. Our pretzels are being threatened by this man. What else do you need? It's like you think we were preparing for a zombie attack. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Who's more famous than you? You are the most famous man in the world. What are you talking about? Who's more famous? I said, Jesus Christ. Sometimes the best comedy writes itself, or in this case, tweets itself at 3:00 a.m. Who needs late-night writers when you've got a president with insomnia and a smartphone? Trump's meltdown was like a gift wrapped in cough paper for comedians everywhere. Grumpy Trump just keeps on giving. Meanwhile, Melania has been MIA for days. Coincidence? I think not. Stick around as we unpack this comedy goldmine and Trump's desperate attempts to convince us and himself that everything's just peachy in paradise. All right, folks, buckle up because the late-night comedy duo of Kimmel and Colbert just unleashed a joke storm that had Trump's tiny Twitter fingers twitching. These two comedic masterminds teamed up like Batman and Robin. If Batman and Robin were really into roasting orange presidents, Jimmy Kimmel kicked things off with a zinger that hit Trump right where it hurts. His ego. He said, Trump's marriage is like his business is, mostly for show. Ouch. That's got to sting worse than a bad spray tan job. But Kimmel was just getting warmed up, like a microwave heating up last night's McDonald's. Not to be outdone, Colbert jumped in with some zingers about Melania's disappearing act. He joked that Melania has been playing the world's longest game of hide-and-seek since 2016. Marco Polo has nothing on Melania. Maybe she's just trying to socially distance from her husband's tweets. But the real kicker came when both comedians pointed out how Melania keeps dodging Trump's hand-holding attempts. It's like watching a game of whack-a-mole, except the mole is Trump's hand and Melania's the one with the mallet. They showed clips of Melania's famous eye rolls during public events. Those eye rolls spoke louder than words. And let's face it, they probably said more than Melania has said in public in years. Kimmel, always ready with a quip, suggested Melania counts down the days until she can leave. He joked that she's got one of those novelty countdown clocks. But instead of days until retirement, it says, days until I can change the locks. Meanwhile, Colbert compared their marriage to a hostage situation. Talk about a presidential suite with no exit strategy. The audience couldn't stop laughing at these brutal takedowns. It was like watching a comedy roast. But instead of a celebrity, they were roasting the former leader of the free world. The laughter was so loud, you could probably hear it all the way in Mar-a-Lago. Speaking of Mar-a-Lago, picture this: Trump, probably lounging in his golden throne, aka his favorite toilet, smartphone in one hand, hamburger in the other. As the jokes keep coming, his face gets redder and redder. It's like watching a tomato slowly ripen. Except this tomato has a bad comb over. You could almost see his tiny fingers. Any more proof that he didn't make America great again? There's plywood in the windows, at the Wetzel Pretzels across the street. If you're going under for surgery, the last thing you want to hear your doctor say is, "Don't worry, I'm mentally stable and really smart." The best way to describe how I'm feeling right now is somewhere between Christmas Eve and the night before a liver transplant. Spoiler alert, he's probably going to hit that buzzer, but here's the real kicker, folks. Remember Melania's infamous "I don't care" jacket? Well, Kimmel dropped a truth bomb that had everyone's jaws on the floor. He suggested that maybe, just maybe, that jacket wasn't aimed at the media or the liberals. Plot twist. It was aimed at Trump himself. Talk about wearing your heart on your sleeve. Or in this case, your total indifference on your back. It's like Melania was playing 4D chess while Trump was still figuring out how to set up the checkers board. She wasn't making a political statement. She was making a marital one. And let me tell you, that statement was louder than Trump's Twitter account during a 3 a.m. coffee binge. Well, folks, it seems our favorite orange turd just couldn't resist proving Kimmel and Colbert right. While normal folks were counting sheep, Donnie Diapers was counting retweets at 2 a.m. When most presidents are dreaming of world peace, our grumpy Trump unleashed a tweet storm so wild it made cough look like Shakespeare. Trump's tiny fingers were working overtime as he fired off a barrage of tweets calling Kimmel and Colbert unfunny losers who wish they had a marriage like mine. Oh, the irony. It's like watching a toddler throw a tantrum because someone said his macaroni art wasn't refrigerator worthy. But wait, it gets better. In his desperate attempt to prove his marriage is more stable than his mental state, Trump posted a blurry selfie with Melania. Let's just say, it looked like it was taken with a potato. And not even a good potato. More like one of those sad, wrinkly potatoes you find at the bottom of the bag. I think that would qualify as not smart, but genius. And a very stable genius. At that, yes, will be contested for weeks on end. The best way to describe how I'm feeling right now is somewhere between Christmas Eve and the night before a liver transplant. It really is unbelievable. The fact that people are boarding up their businesses for an election should alarm us. The caption, "Fake news can't handle our love." Yeah. And neither can our eyes, after seeing that pixelated disaster. As the night wore on, Trump's tweets started to look like they were typed by a cat walking across a keyboard. His spelling went from bad to worse, which is saying something considering his usual standard. It was like watching a real-time demonstration of how sleep deprivation affects the brain. Spoiler alert, it's not pretty. By 4 a.m., our poet-in-chief decided to channel his inner Shakespeare. And by Shakespeare, I mean a drunk frat boy trying to impress his crush. Trump's literary masterpiece included gems like "Roses are red, fake news is blue, Melania is great, and I am too." Move over Wordsworth. We've got a new master of romantic verse in town. I'm sure Melania's heart was just a flutter. Meanwhile, Trump's staff was playing a high-stakes game of keep away with the president's phone. Picture a bunch of suited adults chasing a septuagenarian around the White House, trying to pry a smartphone from his tiny hands. It's like a sitcom, but with potentially disastrous consequences for international relations. But our tweeter-in-chief wasn't going down without a fight. Every time they thought they'd won, Trump would magically produce another phone. It was like he had a Mary Poppins bag full of them. One can only imagine the scene. Trump, hair askew, robe flapping, scurrying from room to room, leaving a trail of discarded phones in his wake. The internet, of course, had a field day, while Trump was busy trying to convince the world, and probably himself, that his marriage was the greatest love story. Since Romeo and Juliet, Twitter was turning his meltdown into the night's best. Entertainment, memes were born, gifs were shared, and somewhere, Kimmel and Colbert were probably high-fiving each other. Just when we thought the Trump circus couldn't get any weirder, Melania decided to pull a Houdini on us, right after Donnie's late-night Twitter tantrum. Our favorite First Lady vanished faster than Trump's hairline in a windstorm. Talk about perfect timing. For 3 whole days, nobody saw hide nor hair of Melania. She cancelled not 1, not 2, but 3 public appearances in a row. It was like she'd been abducted by aliens. Or maybe just found a really comfy closet to hide in. Her spokesperson tried to calm everyone down by saying, Melania was resting. Yeah, right, and I'm the Queen of England. Meanwhile, Trump kept insisting everything was peachy keen in Trumpland. People began betting on when she would return. One joker suggested she'd found a secret bunker in the White House, one with a spa, a minibar, and no access to Fox News. Others thought she might be meeting with divorce lawyers, probably comparing notes with Jeff Bezos' ex-wife on how to score big in a settlement. Trump's team looked increasingly nervous as the days went by. You could almost see the sweat stains on their MAGA hats. I'm a very stable genius. Now, if you excuse me, it's past my cheeseburger's bedtime. Let's go. A friend of mine once said, You're the most famous man in the world. I replied, No, I'm not. I want to make a suggestion to get you through election night. I have something that can help. They're busy sandbagging the border right now for everyone who says they're going to move there. No, you're not. We are not welcome in Canada. It's really unbelievable. People were probably running around the White House like headless chickens, checking every broom closet and under every golden toilet for any sign of the missing First Lady. The truth behind why Melania keeps disappearing is still up for debate. Some folks reckon it's her way of protesting Trump's behavior. A really expensive, designer-clad version of a sit-in. Others think she's just trying to find 5 minutes of peace and quiet in a house that probably smells like McDonald's. And hairspray. Whatever the reason, one thing's for sure. Melania's absence spoke louder than any "I really don't care, do you?" jacket ever could. It's like she was saying, I really don't want to be here. Do you blame me? Without saying a word. As the nation held its collective breath, waiting for Melania to reappear, conspiracy theories ran wild. Was she secretly running the country from a bunker while Trump played with his phone? Had she finally made good on her threat to move back to New York? Or was she just binge-watching The Crown and taking notes on how to be a proper First Lady? The whole situation was so ridiculous. It made you wonder if we were living in a reality TV show gone horribly wrong. Keeping up with the Trumps, anyone? I can see the tagline now. In this family, the drama never stops. And neither does the tweeting. And boy, did the tweeting never stop. But it wasn't just Trump's thumbs working overtime. The internet decided to join the party. The meme machine went into overdrive, churning out content faster Then Trump could hit send on his next tweet. Folks on social media got creative, really creative. People started posting their own 3 a.m. selfies with random objects. Suddenly, everyone was declaring their undying love for vacuum cleaners and houseplants. It was like a weird game of, what's the strangest thing I can cuddle with? Pets and pillows were just the beginning. I wouldn't be surprised if someone tried to marry their toaster. But the internet wasn't done yet. Oh no, they were just getting warmed up. Someone had the brilliant idea of sharing photos of sad-looking breakfast toast. But here's the kicker. They added tiny paper cutouts of Melania propped up nearby. The joke was that she'd gone to get more ketchup 3 years ago and never came back. Talk about a breakfast of champions. Even Republicans. Trump's own party started to lose it. Some were practically begging for Trump to log off. One GOP senator reportedly said, "I miss the days when our biggest worry was the CIA." Another wished for a presidential mute button. Can you imagine? A big red button in the Oval Office, labeled Tweet Silencer? Now that's an executive order I could get behind. Late-night hosts were having a field day. Kimmel and Colbert, already on a roll, now had enough material to last them till the next election. They started dedicating whole segments to reading Trump's tweets in exaggerated voices. It was like story time for adults. But instead of Goodnight Moon, we got Goodnight Sanity. Trump's supporters tried to defend him. Bless their hearts. But even they looked confused. One supporter asked if breakfast together was some kind of secret code. Secret code, more like a cry for help. Maybe Trump was trying to communicate in breakfast foods. 2 eggs, sunny side up, probably meant everything's fine, nothing to see here. She knows me. She wanted to run with me as vice president. She was going to be the vice president. She wrote me a letter, it's in the book. And now she goes and makes statements like that. 24 hours from now, our long national nightmare will be contested for weeks on end. Also, I think it's worth mentioning that people who are stable generally don't announce it. When Roger King, the head of King World, Oprah's mentor, passed away, the internet's reaction to Trump's marriage meltdown was a perfect storm of humor and criticism. Memes were popping up faster than you could say KFC. It was like watching a train wreck. But the train was made of tweets, and the wreck was happening in slow motion over several days.